Welcome to What Are You Sporting About podcast, a podcast about business, employment, sports, and entertainment to help educate, support, and guide you to your next level. Here's your host, attorney Savania De Barros.
Hey, everybody. I am back. Savania De Barros, the protector of athletes and also the founder and principal attorney of the S.L. De Barros Law Firm, where we represent 6- and 7-figure business owners and athletes in business. I want to remind you guys, make sure that you go to athletesmakingmoves.com and register for this upcoming webinar that I'm co-hosting with the amazing Coach Helen Williams. We're going to be talking about how we can help coaches navigate name, image, and likeness. So you'll see that go across my screen. If you're watching this, if you're listening to this at a later time, you simply just have to go to athletesmakingmoves.com. And so without further ado, I definitely want to introduce my next guest, Mr. Randy Osei, because we met on a panel prior to today, and I just loved his entire aura and everything he had to say. So I had to get him on the cast. So let me just tell you a little bit about him. He definitely has a niche for building relationships and has always been a strong suit for as an entrepreneur. He was actually born to immigrant parents in Montreal, but raised in Scarborough. I think that's how you pronounce that.
Yeah.
And Brampton, is it?
Yep.
Okay.
So these are all like neighborhoods around Toronto.
Gotcha. Because I'm like, I don't know where that is.
You can just say Toronto for everybody.
Okay. Well, yeah. Toronto guys. But he also has a true passion for the game of basketball. After a couple of injuries derailed his hoop dreams, Randy traded in his jersey to work in sports marketing. He also became the brand manager for a top 5 pick in 2013, the NBA draft. And he soon saw the gap between mid-sized brands and athletes. So in 2015, he launched Rozaay Management, a creative marketing and branding agency. And this management agency has grown into one of Canada's most influential agencies, working with over 30 plus brands, 60 media outlets, and over 150 professional athletes spanning the NBA, NFL, CFL, and MLS. In 2019, which wasn't that long ago, Randy also wanted to build a new bridge for athletes, life after sports, using technology. And so he created Athlete Technology Summit, which was born and grew to begin building that bridge. But COVID-19 caused him to pivot, like many of us have had to do. And shortly after, Athlete Tech Group was born, and that was October 1st of this year. ATG launched Training Ground on-demand micro-learning in a centralized mobile-friendly experience. So I know it's a lot, and I love the trajectory for all of that. And it just goes to show how a lot of people weren't just sitting idly behind and trying to figure out, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? People were actually creating solutions during the pandemic for the problems that they saw. And so I have to tip my hat off to you, sir.
Thank you. Really excited to be here. Continue conversations.
For sure. I want to jump in and ask you, what are you sporting about? And I think I kind of heard a little bit, but I definitely want to hear it from your mouth.
Yeah, I'm currently sporting, helping athletes. Well, I'm actually sporting, I think the biggest problem in sports, which is supporting athletes, right? They are as superhero-ish as they are, and people want to be like them. Once they're no longer athletes, people don't care as much, and that's goes past fans. I mean, we talk about coaches and parents and leagues and organizations. The life of an athlete is a very difficult one, and it's a roller coaster ride. And when it comes to an end, we hear about all of the horror stories of athletes struggling to transition into the wrong business, or so on and so forth. So, for me right now, I'm sporting, helping athletes transition to life after sports. And if we're going to talk life after sports, what COVID has really amplified is the need for increasing your digital capacity. So that is one thing that we really focus on, as we've helped pro athletes invest into tech companies And we're also working with other athletes to start their own and or gain education to maybe become workers within tech as the world moves forward.
No, that's really good. And part of your transitioning, so there's a lot of folks that I've met and that I've collabed with who have this passion specifically for transitioning in sports. And so it can look so many different ways depending on the athlete, what their dreams or hopes are in that space. And so I really do love and appreciate that there is a way to transition and also use that in the tech space. So with that being said, right. So I do want to, because you've said before about, I had to write it down just so I wouldn't forget, future proof yourself. So yes, I want to know, what does that mean based on your own perspective? Because as I think about it, I have a lot of different, what's that?
I was gonna say I'd love to hear what you think. Like, what is when you hear that word? The same way, what are you sporting about? When you hear future proof yourself, what comes to mind?
Well, as an attorney, I think of it as a legal component for continued protection. And so, with all, especially with the name, image, and likeness, has brought a lot of stuff to the surface that I don't think general people really ever thought about, which was all of the things that they do on a daily basis and creating intellectual property. And it's just out here, willy-nilly and able to be used and taken by anybody. And so when you don't do anything or put certain measures in place, you're not proofed in a sense, right? And so the way that you go to proof yourself for future purposes is making sure that you actually get engaged with the steps that it takes to actually protect yourself and your work along the way. So I'm curious to know what this means from your perspective, especially from a technological angle.
For sure. And honestly, I'm just going to piggyback off of what you just shared, right? It's protecting your future, right? We all know that, tomorrow could be the last day any athlete plays sport. And how do you prepare for something when you don't know when it's coming? How? Like, seriously, I ask every single athlete, what is plan B? And how do you prepare for something? So when I speak to future proofing yourself, it's you're preparing for the inevitable. And because it's inevitable and you're going to have to transfer, as much as we think of technology as this industry that, for a long time, especially Black people, technology wasn't a space that we looked at to say, hey, you know what, I want to work in tech. It was considered for engineers and smart people that go to Harvard and so on and so forth. We interact with technology 6 to 8 times a day, whether it's from our phone, our social media, our cars talk to us, our cars drive for us now. Like, the world is moving so fast. And when I say future proof yourself for athletes, understanding data literacy is going to be just as important as math literacy. It's going to be just as important as time management skills, right? Our future is so technologically advanced that no one is paying attention to how, in 2017, Dell came out with the report that said 85% of the jobs that are going to be available in the year 2030 haven't been invented yet. COVID has sped that up to about 2026. So if you're a coach, a trainer, student athlete development lead, anyone that's involved with athletes, how are you preparing them for that? Let alone the upcoming game, let alone, the playoffs, let alone, next season, let alone contracts. Like, how are you preparing them for a world that's going to be so technologically advanced, but you're not preparing like right now? So to me, yourself is the same thing you said. It's protecting yourself in the future. And I mean, one piece of it is legal, but the other pieces of it, are the personal development, right? How are we growing as individuals? How are we growing socially? How are we growing professionally? And as much as I love NIL, I also am scared of NIL because what it's going to create is all of these athletes that think they deserve a bag. And you do. But one, you've got to protect, what you've created. Two, you've also got to understand the world that you're entering. And right now,
Right.
we're entering into the creator economy, which is one of the fastest growing industries. There are so many creator apps and technologies that are being developed. And if you're not aware of how these things work, they're going to turn into the next Instagrams and Twitters that are just leveraging your data and showing you what you want to see, right? So future proof is really taking a little bit of what you shared and giving you this holistic perspective to say, am I going to be able to compete in tomorrow's world? Am I going to be able to get the jobs at the Googles and the Microsofts and all of these companies, not because I know how to code, but I understand technology. And technology is very simple. It has the power to bring us together or to divide us. And where the world is now, with technology advancing so fast, as humans, if we don't continue to upskill, if we don't get more Black web developers and software developers and more diversity in technology is going to go this way, and the rest of us are going to be chasing behind it. And that is very real. And
Yeah.
it's almost scary, but how else do we get people to move? Sometimes you got to scare them, right? Sometimes you got to scare them to say,
scare them into action.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, you're so right, because it's tech, and it's moved so fast. And I'm gonna tell you this, even in the legal community, it is, I don't want to say an ethical principle, but it's one of those things now that you can find in the model rules of ethics for lawyers. Like, you have to be competent in technology, because if you're not, it could cause an issue or disservice to your client. But I find myself, it's really hard these days for me to take a client who is not technologically sound, because it almost seems like everything has to stop, or you have to go and do like a whole bunch of ancient stuff just for one client. You know what I mean? And so it does really slow a lot down. But I agree with everything that you said, because just even with my firm, like, our contracts are sent through tech. They're signed through tech. And we've seen how the world shut down. Guess what we were doing? We were all on tech. You got a court hearing? Okay, you better log into Zoom, and this forced people who were shying away from technology to now utilize it. How else are you going to respond or talk to the people that are going to make a decision, for instance, in something that you're passionate about? You have to jump on this computer and figure it out, or dial in, or, and so you're right. There's going to be a curve. There's already a curve there in terms of not just the soft skills, but really hard skills for athletes, or anybody really who wants to create a brand or some form of business. If you don't implement tech, it can become so draining. Because tech helps us to do more faster. And to organize.
Think about it. Calendly, created by a Black man. Right? Someone said, and people say it all the time, I'm tired of scheduling meetings. I hate answering emails and trying to find a schedule. Someone said, how about I just take your schedule, put it in a link, and I let people book it themselves? Genius, right? And that's what technology allows us to do. It's solving problems. That might seem like a small problem, but you take Calendly, for an entrepreneur like myself or a lawyer like yourself, Calendly could save you 2 hours per week.
A lot of time, because you're not going back and forth, dropping in. You're not like cat and mousing all over the place about this time, that date, or what have you. It's like, look, just go to the calendar.
Look, just go to the calendar. Just book it here. Absolutely. So
Right. And so you created Training Ground for Athletes, which was born through the pandemic. Tell me more about Training Ground, and what is your ultimate goal with it? Let's just say 5 years from now, what's your ultimate goal?
My ultimate goal in 5 years is to um, help every athlete on the planet understand their purpose outside of sport. That's my ultimate goal. Training ground is, to me, is set to disrupt sports. It's set to help the biggest problem in sports, which is athletes and supporting athletes during their transition. And prior to that transition, just having a place that athletes can go to learn on their own. You know, as athletes, you have to have this ego. You have to feel like you're the best. You have to feel these things. And because you're so focused on your sport, you don't have time to learn about what is AI or what is crypto or how to build a personal brand by yourself. You don't really have time to do these things. So I saw this in my professional work and working with professional athletes and said, well, if pro athletes are dealing with this, college athletes must be dealing with this, high school athletes must be dealing with this, right? And I wanted to build a mobile app that met athletes where they are, where they can go and ask the tough questions and learn things that they're interested in but are scared to ask, right? They don't want to look dumb, or they don't want to look like the cool guy or gal in the room, because as an athlete, I've always got to find ways to be the best. Everything's a competition. So, Training Ground provides that one-stop shop to ultimately learn the skills that school doesn't necessarily provide you, but also, learn those skills in sports and find ways to transfer them. So this app was really built for athletes, from, the content, all of it, of which is 10 minutes or less. 10 minutes, we leverage micro learning, which actually is 20% more effective than traditional learning, because we're taking high amounts of information and giving it to you in 10 minutes or less. The other thing is it's on demand. So if you watch it and you didn't understand, you can go back, watch it again. The next piece that we wanted to add was sharing features like being able to create a playlist. So we're not there yet, but Savania, what in a world where I'm sure you get a ton of requests, people could come to you and say, hey, Savania, I want to learn about X, Y, and Z. I would love for you to come into Training Ground and build a playlist and share it with somebody and say, hey, before we talk, watch 20 minutes of this. This will answer any preliminary questions, and then you and I could take a deeper dive, right? We've built in, a lot of analytics. Analytics is everything. Athletes are driven by analytics. They're driven by stats, points, rebounds, assists. Let's drive our analytics to our learning, right? So we really want to make learning fun again. We want to almost make it a habit. We're all on a lifelong journey to learn, and Training Ground, because it's built for athletes, is set to fit into an athlete's lifestyle seamlessly, right? Users can also download content. So, when you're traveling and you've got to get on the team bus or you got to get on a plane, download your content before, and while you're traveling, engage, right? We've had athletes use Training Ground while they're getting taped. We've had athletes use Training Ground while they're working out. They'll be on the treadmill and it's in front of them playing, and they're gaining knowledge. So because, we've come to learn that everyone learns extremely different. Some people are great at reading. Some people are great at watching podcasts, documentaries, audiobooks. All of these different ways to learn is available in Training Ground. So the one liner around what Training Ground is, Training Ground is on-demand micro learning, centralized in a mobile friendly experience. Ultimately, it's learning on the go. It's in your pocket, and we're giving ownership back to athletes. And one thing I want to speak to around ownership is, from a young age, when it comes to sports, everything is on a schedule. Team bus, practice, games, etc., etc. What I've learned, when you give athletes days off, a lot of them don't do much. A lot of them just rest, right? They're so used to just going. What Training Ground gives athletes is autonomy. It gives them the self-governance to learn when they want and learn what they want, which I think is a lot more powerful to give people the ability to own their learning, as opposed to, all right, guys, we're going to bring in, this guest speaker to come in and chat with you guys over this weekend, and they're going to give you great tips, and we're going to go through workbooks. What we see is development is so decentralized, it's silo. We'll bring in a speaker for one weekend and it will resonate for 2 or 3 days. But like, what if I need to go and ask that speaker a question? Or what if I wanted to hear that lesson again? Or what if I wanted to take a deep dive and take a case study? You can't do that when the speaker is gone, right? So Training Ground brings it all into one place at your fingertips, to fit your lifestyle ultimately.
I love that. And I was thinking in the back of my mind, like, okay, how is this different from any other content, but more of a substantive content platform for athletes?
Mm-hmm.
And I think you answered it. Yeah, I think you answered it, because I have not, at least I haven't heard somebody else talk about how the athlete can technically choose what it is that they want. Normally those programs are already built out and this is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
You start from point A, go to point Z. But you said something that was so important. Analytics. Athletes are driven by analytics. And I am the type of person who kind of overthinks things, maybe because that's what I'm trained to do. But I think also athletes look at where they think they have shortcomings, but don't recognize, like, hey, this is a skill you already have. Right. And so you don't have to be afraid of tech. You don't have to be afraid of utilizing it for your own benefit, because you engage in analytics every day. Every time you go into a locker room or with your coach or for development, you're looking at analytics. You're looking at how you get better. You're looking at how you can run a play. You're looking at where your opponent is going to be. Right. And all of those things help you to line things up better so that your performance is also improved.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, you hit that definitely on the head. I mean, it's how athletes already learn. So let's make it more engaging. Let's make it more fun. I mean, the skill sets a lot of athletes have, like being able to get yelled at by a coach, that's constructive criticism. Most people can't deal with that. Athletes can, right? Time management, discipline, being motivated. All of these skills are skills employers are craving for. The other thing that athletes have, they've got amazing networks that they do not use at all. From your college coach to, the alumni from your school, the boosters, all of those people love you because you're wearing this. As soon as this comes off, they're not going to care. So it's on you, athlete, to go and build those relationships, because these are the folks with, as they say, bags of money that can make things shake or move. So yeah, really wanted to build all of that into Training Ground. Like even in Training Ground, you could attend events. So there's a central location to build your network as well. So really excited to, get the world's feedback. Training Ground currently is being used by a couple college athletic departments, a couple high school teams as well. And we actually have a partnership with the Canadian government to launch a program next year for BIPOC female athletes. Thank you. That program is actually going to be amazing. We're helping young female BIPOC athletes prepare for life after sport. And for women, it's a little bit different, right? It's a lot different. Let's call a spade a spade. Sexism, microaggressions, obviously racism, obviously, there's a long list of things that women have to deal with. Exactly. Mm-hmm. So this program that we're launching, that we're going to leverage Training Ground for, is really going to change the trajectory of the lives of the young ladies that come into this program. So I'm really excited around that as well.
No, that's awesome. That is so awesome. And congratulations around all of the advancements that you are making with it, because it just goes to show, like, when you create a solution to a problem, it's easier to move it along. There was something I was going to ask you and I totally spaced out on it. I can't even remember, but anywho, how can, if athletes want to become a part of the Athlete Training Ground, how can they do that?
Training Ground is available in the App Store, Google Play, Apple App Store. It's completely free to download. We have a bunch of free content on there. As a entrepreneur, as someone that believes in community, we could make this app like everyone's got to pay for it. But I said that doesn't really speak to me. I've been a person that wants to democratize access to different things. I want to democratize access to education, to development. So there's a lot of free content on Training Ground right now that anyone can go and begin to engage with. We've got video content that we've animated. We have content with athletes that have spoken on our podcast or jumped into our workshops. We have, case studies on companies like Red Bull, case studies on companies like Amazon, Uber. We've got workbooks, templates. Everything is in the mobile app and it's literally at your fingertips. So it's completely available for everybody to download as well.
So I think I found the link, and I'm going to put it here in the comments. So if you guys are watching this later, you should be able to see it. And all you need to do is go to, I think it's on the Apple Store too. Yep, Training Ground. So you'll have it there. And then Randy, how can individuals follow you or stay connected with you and see what your next advancement or development is going to be?
For sure. I'm all over the internet. We've got a Instagram page. My Instagram is Randy Rozaay. So Rozaay. Shout out Rick Ross. Athlete Tech Group on Instagram as well. So that's Athlete Tech Group. And then you'll also find trainingground.app on Instagram as well. Online, website wise, athletetechgroup.com or traininggroundapp.com. Shoot me a note. I'm always down to talk and build relationships. I don't get here unless I build relationships, and I'd be a fool to stop building relationships because I've advanced a little bit. I feel that people stop doing the things that got them where they were because they think they've outgrown them. And at times, the best thing to do is do what you do best. So I welcome connecting with folks that see the vision, that see what we're focused on. Not only helping athletes, we've also had stakeholders join the app. We've had parents download the app, trying to learn why tech is going to be so disruptive. We've had coaches, we've had aunts, uncles of athletes, managers of athletes, agents of athletes, financial advisors of athletes also jump on to the app as well. So right now we're giving out free game and collecting as much data to inform the next update of the app and inform the next content releases of the app as well. And I'm really excited. Hey, maybe here's an idea. Maybe we have Savanya join the app. I think a lot of the work that you're doing in protecting of athletes, I'm sure there's a lot of free gems that you give out all the time, right? But where are people going to find it? Where do they go? It could be the website, it could be YouTube, it could be the podcast. I want to build one place where if people want to engage with Savanya or engage around what does protection for athletes look like, it's in one place.
Let's definitely talk about that for sure. I definitely try to make sure that I put content out there that everybody can utilize because, it's one of those things where sometimes people may not have the capital at that moment to invest with you, but it doesn't mean that they should be shut off from actual knowledge, right? We all need the resources to help us be better. And when you are able to then move from free content to more direct investment into self, you'll have already created a foundational level of information, to utilize the information you receive from an investment later. So yeah, let's definitely chat about that. And I'm so happy that you were able to come onto the podcast and talk to us more about just foolproofing your future, what Training Ground is doing, how people can get involved and where they can go to sign up. And also breaking down some of those mental blocks in a way. Like if you think that you aren't able to utilize tech or is scared of technology, just think about what you do every day. When you go back to analyze data, you are already doing something that is a part of technology, right? You're just doing it on your own. So yeah, guys, make sure that you go and connect with Randy. Go download the app. A lot of information is there to help you to become better. And it is time that we stop making excuses, especially when people provide the information for you. Yeah. So let's get it done. All right, guys. Thank you so much, Randy, for coming on again. And look, if you are an athletic director, if you are an individual who is in charge of bringing speakers to your campus, I want you to book me, the Protector of Athletes, for your next college event. And for all of my coaches who's trying to find out, what is all this name, image, and likeness? What does that have to do with me in my position as a college coach? Connect with myself and my co-host, Miss Helen Williams, on the 14th at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time to talk about navigating name, image, and likeness. Until next time, guys, I will check you later. Ciao.
Thanks for joining us this week on What Are You Sporting About podcast. Make sure to visit our website, prosportlawyer.com, where you can subscribe to the show in iTunes, Stitcher, or whatever your favorite platform is, so you'll never miss a show. And while you're at it, if you found value in the show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes or iHeartRadio. Or if you'd simply tell a friend about the show, that would help us out too. If you like the show, you might want to check out our book, What Are You Sporting About? Attorney Savania DeBarros is available for private consulting at sldebarros.com. And remember, we're here to educate, support, and guide you in your journey to success, because we're all sporting about something.